All right, this is the study guide for Algebra 1, Unit 3, called Functions. I'm just going to go over the problems here. Problem number 1, they ask you, point A is located in which quadrant? So for your quadrants on your graph, you start at the top right corner, that's quadrant 1, and then you move clockwise. This one's quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4 over here. So A is located in quadrant 2. All right, problem number 2, they ask you, which of the following equations is a translation of 2 units up on the graph of y equals the absolute value of x? So the graph of y equals the absolute value of x is a V that opens up from the center, because no matter what you put in here, whether positive or negative, y is always going to be positive. If you put 1 in here, y is going to equal 1, 1, 1. If you put negative 1 in here, y is also going to equal 1, so negative 1, 1. And it opens as a V. Now if it says y is the absolute value, the negative absolute value of V, the V opens downward. So these are the translations on this graph. The graph of y equals absolute value of x can have a number added on the outside or subtracted. This tells you that the vertex moves up if it's positive and down if it's negative. So if it was this graph here, y equals absolute value of x plus 2, it would move up 2 and open from there. All right, this tells you whether it moves left or right, and it's actually backwards. Y equals absolute value of x plus 2 actually moves your graph left, your vertex left, and the absolute value of x minus 2 moves the graph right, the vertex right. So which one of the following equations is the translations 2 units up? Would be the absolute value of x plus 2 outside of the absolute value signs. All right, problem number 3, they ask, point C has a blank abscissa and blank ordinate. So the abscissa is, abscissa is the x point and the ordinate is the y point. So from your origin, which is 0, 0, if you move right, it's positive. If you move left, it's negative. So to get to C, you would move 1, 2, 3 to the right. That means positive. So your abscissa, which is your x, is positive, and then you're going to move down, which means negative. So your ordinate is negative. Problem number 4 is a true and false question. It says a line that is parallel to the y-axis, slope is unidentified. So the y-axis is the one that goes up and down, and the one that moves left and right is your x-axis. So a line that is parallel to the y-axis, going this direction, has a slope that's unidentified. That's true, because when you identify for slope, it is the horizontal change over the vertical change. And if your horizontal doesn't change, you end up with a 0 on bottom. You cannot divide by 0. So every time a vertical line has unidentified slope, a horizontal line that's parallel to the x-axis has a 0 slope. Okay? On problem number 5, they ask, which of the following is not a function? And they give you 3 choices. A circle on the graph, this is the graph of y equals the absolute value, negative absolute value of x, and a line. Now, to be a function, it has to pass the vertical line test. So you draw a vertical line at every point, and it can never touch it twice. So this one does not work, because if you draw a vertical line, it touches here and here. So that tells you straight away that is not a function. So that graph is not a function. We're going to skip number 6 for a minute so I can grab these other ones that take a graph. Number 7, they ask, which of the following is the graph of the function of x equals x squared? All right, so whenever you have an exponent, that causes your graph to curve. So they give you 3 options. One looks like this, and one is a line. It's going the opposite way, but it's the same look. Okay, so whenever you have an exponent in a graph, it causes the line to curve. So if you put 2 in here, 2 squared would equal 4. So when x was 2, y equaled 4. All right, so 1, 2, 4. And then the next one, if you put 3 in here, 3 squared would equal 9. And that would curve farther, 3 to 9, and it causes the graph to curve. So an exponent in an equation causes your graph to curve, and that's why the function of x equals x squared is a u going up from the center. All right, problem number 6, we'll go back and grab that one. They ask, the function of x equals 4x squared minus x. Solve for the function of x is negative 3. Now in a function, every time you put a different x in, you're going to get y. You're going to get a different y. You can't ever match up an x. One x cannot have two different y's with it. All right, so you just put negative 3 into this equation to find out what this answer is when x is negative 3. So 4 times negative 3 squared minus negative 3. All right, so first off, we'll do our exponents. Negative 3 squared is actually 9. And then minus negative 3 actually means plus 3. So 4 times 9 is 36, plus 3 is 39. All right, number 8 is find the common difference in the sequence shown. So your common difference, you just take 2 of them and subtract. You can subtract 3 over 8 minus 5 sixteenths, 3 eighths minus 5 sixteenths, or you can go 5 sixteenths minus 1/4. It'll give you the same answer in either way. So we'll do 3 eighths minus 5 sixteenths. So to do this, you need a common denominator. So you have to times this one by 2 to get 16 on bottom. 6 over 16 minus 5 over 16 gives you 1 over 16. Your common difference is 1/16. Problem number 9, they ask if y is 10 when x is 5 and y varies directly with x. Find y when x is 20. So y varying directly is x mean y goes over x. If they say x varies directly with y, then x would go over y. So they give you 2 sets here. They say y is 10 when x is 5. Find y when x is 20. So we're looking for this y here. So we set up a proportion and cross multiply, all right? 20 times 10 is 200, and 5 times y is 5y. And then divide 200 by 5 to get y. 200 divided by 5 is 40. When x is 20, y will equal 40. All right, for problems number 10, we start with our equations of lines. All right, so in problem number 10, they ask you for the slope of a line that passes through these 2 points, 1, 2, and 3, 8. All right, so for slope, the equation for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you subtract your y's over subtracting your x's. The only reason for these numbers, 2 and 1, is that if you go for y's 8 minus 2, you can't go 1 minus 3, right? So if you choose to go 8 minus 2, you have to go 3 minus 1, all right? It doesn't matter. You can go 2 minus 8, 1 minus 3, or 8 minus 2, 3 minus 1. But you have to, if you subtract with these, you got to use both of these, all right? So your equation here, your answer here would be 8 minus 2 over 3 minus 1. 8 minus 2 is 6. 3 minus 1 is 2. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. So your slope would be 3. All right, problem number 11, they give you the equation of a line. This one they give you is in general form, right? 3x minus 5y plus 10 equals 0. They ask you to change it to slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So what you have to do is solve for y. So you want to move everything but y to one side of the equation. All right, in this problem, your y has to be positive, and right here y is negative. So I would choose to move my 5y to the other side. So leave 3x here, leave the 10 here, and then move the 5y. It was negative. Over here it's going to be positive 5y. All right? Then for y to be truly alone, we have to divide by 5 because 5 is multiplied to y. So the opposite of multiplication is division. Divide both of these by 5. You end up with 3 over 5x plus 10 divided by 5 is 2 equals y. Okay, so in slope-intercept form, y equals 3 over 5x plus 2. Once you have everything situated, you can just flip the equation without changing any signs to write it the correct direction. Problem number 12, they give you an equation, y equals 1/3 x, and they want you to put it in general form, which means they want x and y together on one side. But you can't have fractions in general form. So the first thing we got to do is get rid of that fraction. 3 is divided on this side, so the opposite would be multiplying. So we're going to multiply 3x, then all you're left with is 1y, which is just y. And then to put it in general form, you got to bring the y over here with the x. You have 3x, move the y, it's going to become minus y equals 0. Now it's in general form. You've moved an equation in general form to slope-intercept form in problem number 11. And in problem number 12, you took an equation and you put it into general form. All right, in problem number 13, again, they ask you to find the equation, find the slope of a line from 2 points. So the same equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So my y's are 1 and negative 2. I'm going to go 1 minus negative 2 over 1 minus 0. So 1 minus negative actually means positive. 1 plus 2 is 3 over 1, which equals 3. In number 14, they say, what is the equation of the same line written in general form? So they want you to take this line and put it with this slope. All right, so what they want you to notice is that this point right here has a 0 on the x, meaning this is your y-intercept. Where your y-intercept is where a line crosses the y line. And on the y line, x is always 0. So if you ever have a point with a 0 in the x spot, that's your y-intercept. So they want you to put this in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b, because m is your slope, which you already know because you just solved for slope, and b is your y-intercept. And you know your y-intercept because you have this point that has a 0 where the x is at. So you can put these numbers right into this equation. Y equals m, which is 3, because our slope was 3x plus b, and we know b is negative 2. So it's actually going to be, rather than plus 2, minus 2, because it's negative 2. Then they want you to change it to general form. So in general form, everything is on one side where x is positive, and our x is positive right here. So we're going to leave it here, move the y over, the y was positive, now it's going to be negative y minus 2 equals 0, or 3x minus y minus 2 equals 0. In problem number 15, they ask what is the equation of a line that passes through the points negative 1, 2, and 5, 2. So if you'll take a look, you'll notice the y's are the same. That means there's no change on the y, making it a y line. As soon as you see either the two x's or the two y's are the same, you don't have to do anything but write y equals 2. If it was x's were the same, you would say x equals whatever. And then in general form, which they always, what they want in this problem, you have to move the 2 over here with the y. Y minus 2 equals 0. Now it's in general form of the line. Alright, problem number 16, they give you a little word problem. The cost to mail a package is $6 for the first 2 pounds and 25 cents for each additional ounce. Which of the following functions represents the cost to mail a package if X is the number of ounces over 2 pounds? So it's a function because every different amount of ounces over 2 pounds, you're going to get a different cost. If you have 2 ounces, it's going to cost so much. And if you have 5 ounces, it's going to cost different. So every time you put a different number in, you're going to get a different answer. So it's a function. If it's 2 pounds, it's going to be $6 plus 25 cents for every additional ounce. So we got to times 25 cents for every ounce. So you got to multiply 25 cents by how many ounces they have. That will represent the function for this problem. All right, problem number 17. They ask, what is the equation of a line with an x-intercept of -1 and a y-intercept of 3? So when they tell you the x-intercept, I already covered this, they give you the x-intercept, it means y is 0. Because the x-intercept is where a line crosses the x line, and on the x line, y is 0. And the same thing for the y-intercept. It's where a line crosses the y line, and on the y line, x is always 0. All right? So they've given you 2 points, and they want you to work the equation of a line. All right, so number 1, you have to find your slope. So remember, slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we'll go 3 minus 0 over 0 minus -1. 3 minus 0 is 3, and 0 minus negative actually means 0 plus 1 is 1. So your slope is 1. Your slope is 3. Your slope is 3 for this equation. All right, now you've got to put it in the equation of a line. You know your slope and you know your y-intercept. So you can put it right into slope-intercept form. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So y equals slope, which we just found was 3, x plus the y-intercept, which is, they tell us, is 3. You're done. They don't ask you to put it in general form. You can leave it in slope-intercept form. Now problem number 18, they give you a little bit different problem. In this problem, they give you a point and your slope. You're going to use the point-slope form, okay? Point-slope form is that you know your slope and you know your point. So the equation for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You know one of these points, but you don't know the other. So what you're going to do is you're going to leave these blank and put the point you do know in here. You're going to say y minus the y point, which is -2, over x minus the x point, which is 1, should equal the slope of 1/3. So you set up a proportion and you cross multiply. So that means you multiply this one by these and this by this, all right? So you're going to go 3 times y, and when you have minus negative, it actually means plus 2, equals 1 times x minus 1. All right? So we're going to do our distributive property. And you have to multiply the 3 by both of these, all right? So 3 times y is 3y. 3 times 2 is 6. On this side, 1 times x is x. 1 times -1 is -1. And then we need to put it in general form for this problem to be correct. So in general form, everything's on one side of the equation where x is positive. X is positive right here. So I'm going to have x. I'm going to put my y behind it. It's positive right here. So on this side, it's -3y. And then I already have a -1, and I'm going to subtract the 6 over there. So it's going to be x minus 3y minus 7 equals 0. All right, so that's taking a point and a slope and finding your equation of a line. All right, problem number 19. They say that, what is the equation of a line that passes through 0, -2, and has a slope of 0? Okay, so a slope of 0 tells us it's automatically a horizontal line. All right? Horizontal lines are y lines. So all that you have to say is that y equals whatever the y point is, which in this case is -2. All right, number 20, the range. What is the range of the function y equals absolute value of x? So the range is y. So what they're asking, they give you a couple choices. They say, is x always greater than 0? Is y always greater than 0? Or is y all real numbers? Alright, so for this, the range is y. Alright, so what they're saying is, can you get any numbers? But in this equation, no matter if you put a positive or a negative inside absolute value, it always equals positive. So if you put negative 7 in here, the absolute value of negative 7 is 7. Y is never going to be a negative number because of the absolute value signs. No matter what you say x is, y is going to be positive. So y is always going to be greater than or equal to 0 because it can't be a negative number. Problem number 21, they ask, what is the 31st term of this sequence? Okay, so your first term is 9, 15, 21. So the first thing you need to know is, what is my common difference? So you find your common difference by subtracting any two of them. So 21 minus 15 or 15 minus 9. 15 minus 9 is 6. All right, so our common difference is 6. All right, so your equation for this is the number you're looking for is equal to the first term, which is 9, plus the number term you want, which is the 31st, minus 1, times the common difference, which is 6. Okay, that's the equation. So the first term plus 30 times 6. 30 times 6 is going to be 180. And 180 plus 9 is 189. That is the 31st term of this sequence, is 189. All right, problem number 22. They ask, what is the equation of a line that passes through point 1, 2 and is parallel to the line whose equation is 4x plus y minus 1 equals 0. So to do our point slope formula, we need to know the slope of this line because when lines are parallel, their slopes are equal. So to find the slope of this line, we're going to put it into slope-intercept form, which means we're going to move everything but y to the other side. So leaving y right here, we're going to move 4x over. It's positive, so on this side it's going to minus, and the 1 was negative, now it's going to be positive. So the slope of this line, y equals mx plus b, is negative 4. So that's the same slope as this line because the lines are parallel. So now we can do our slope formula. Y minus the y point, which is 2, equals, over x minus the x point, which is 1, equals negative 4 over 1. Now, to solve for this, we're going to cross multiply. So we're going to multiply 1 times y minus 2 equals 4 times x minus 1. Negative 4, times x minus 1. All right, we're going to do our distributive property. 1 times y is y. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times negative 1 is a positive 4. Now to finish this, we need to put it into general form, which means we put everything on one side. So we got to move our 4x. Our 4x is negative right here, negative 4x. So we want it to be positive. We're going to move it over here so it can be positive 4x. We already have a plus y over here. We already have a negative 2. And we're going to end up subtracting this 4 over here across the equal sign. Equals 0. So to combine like terms, 4x plus y minus 6 equals 0. So that is the general form of this equation. Number 24, I'm going to skip 23 for a second. Ask about perpendicular lines. Now we know in problem 22, we dealt with parallel lines, slopes are equal. Perpendicular lines, slopes are opposite. It's the negative reciprocal. So they say, what is, they say, here we go. The slope of a line is negative 1 over 4. Find the slope of a line that is perpendicular to this line. So perpendicular line slopes are opposite. So you have to invert and change the sign. So invert means you flip it and you change the sign. It was negative, now it's going to be positive 4 over 1, which just equals 4. So parallel lines have equal slope. Perpendicular lines have opposite slope. All right, going back to problem number 23, they ask, rain falls steadily all day, dropping 2 inches of rain each hour. So they say click on the graph until the graph that best represents the given statement appears. So what you're looking for is the graph. It should have rainfall on the side and time on the bottom, and 2 inches every hour. So if every one of these squares, my very fancy graph here, is 1 hour, then every hour it should fall 2 inches. So it should rise 2 every 2 hours. So you're looking for one that it's 2 inches of rainfall every 1 hour. All right, problem number 25. We covered this a little bit at the beginning of the study guide. The graph of the y, they want you to, on a separate piece of graph paper, graph y equals the negative absolute value of x plus 5. All right, so we talked about this a little bit on our, at the beginning of the study guide. So this graph is a V that opens up from the center, usually, unless it has a negative in front of the absolute value, then it opens downward from the center. So it opens like this. And then any number added to it is a translation. So if it's added outside, it either goes up or down. In this case, it's going to go up because it's added. If the number is inside the absolute value, like this, it goes either left or right. And inside it's opposite. So if it's positive, it actually goes left. If it's negative, it actually goes right. So this is the graph we're looking for. It's outside and it's positive. It means the vertex of this is actually going to go up 5 and open from there downward. All right? So make sure you graph that on a separate piece of paper and have me look at it before you take your test. All right, know what you're doing, pay attention, and come to this test ready.